Well, thank you for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be here today. And as was mentioned, I've already spoken on the microbiome twice in the last 6 months. So it was suggested that I talk a little bit more about what I do in my actual day job. As was mentioned, I'm the Director of Grants and Extramural Activities, and what I really try to do is promote nutrition research as it's related to dietary supplements. And I'll start by giving a little bit of background on our office. In 1994, Congress enacted and the President signed an important piece of legislation called the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, or DSHEA. And pretty much what DSHEA did is it defined what dietary supplements are, and I'll get to that in a minute. It established a regulatory framework within FDA for regulating dietary supplements. It established labeling rules, what needs to be on a dietary supplement label as opposed to a food label. And most important, it created the Office of Dietary Supplements at NIH and said that this needed to be inside the Office of the Director. So what is the Office of Dietary Supplements? Well, our mission is to strengthen knowledge and understanding of dietary supplements, and we do this by stimulating and supporting research to investigate the role of dietary supplements in promoting health and reducing disease risk, and that's what I'll focus on in this presentation. But we also support the development of a number of important research tools. We evaluate scientific findings, and we make the most up-to-date scientific knowledge about dietary supplements publicly available. So what is a dietary supplement? It's any product other than tobacco that is intended to be taken by mouth to supplement the diet. It can be in a gel cap, a pill, a soft gel. It has to contain one or more dietary ingredients, including such things as vitamin minerals, herbs and other botanicals, and other dietary substances. Importantly, it's not a conventional food. And you do run into a little bit of a gray area when you get into stuff like energy drinks, and you actually need to look at those and say, do they have a food label on them or a dietary supplement label? And as mentioned, they need to be labeled as a dietary supplement. In fact, any ingredient in food or product of nature could actually be made into a dietary supplement, as long as it's not obviously poisonous or there's a way to take the raw material and make it into a finished product. Dietary supplements include the obvious micronutrients and macronutrients, but they also include many different herbs, phytochemicals, zoochemicals, and a number of miscellaneous items like probiotics and glucosamine. In fact, dietary supplement sales have been increasing at a very rapid rate. In 1994, when DSHEA was enacted, dietary supplement sales in the United States were about $8.6 billion per year. And in fact, by 2013, they were up to $33.1 billion per year. And this is just in the United States. To kind of put this in perspective, in the United States, we spend twice as much on dietary supplements as we do on over-the-counter drugs, and about 1/10 the amount on dietary supplements as we do in prescriptions. Expenditure on dietary supplements is similar to what people spend on books. One of the things that our office has done, and this is primarily researched by Dr. Reagan Bailey, who's in the audience, is really try to better understand who uses supplements and why. And this slide is a compilation of all the wonderful research that she's done. But she's found that about 50% of adults and 1/3 of children in the United States take dietary supplements. They're used mainly to improve or maintain health, not to supplement the diet. Most people take a multivitamin, and most take 1 to 2 supplements per day. And in fact, the people that take dietary supplements tend to have higher education, tend to be white, have a higher family income, higher physical activity, higher age, and tend to have health insurance. And in fact, many are healthy users who take an active role in their health. And actually, only about 23% of products used are recommended by healthcare providers. What I've been involved in when I've come to ODS is actually working on the funding grants related to dietary supplements. And ODS is very different than the other institutes at NIH in that we can't take direct responsibility for grants. In fact, we can only co-fund grants. And we do this by a number of different mechanisms. But the main way that we had been doing it was co-funding grants that had already been through an institute at NIH is review, and that the program director came to us when we had one of our 3 times a year solicitation and said, would we consider co-funding this grant? Would we be interested in it? And usually this can happen by the investigator speaking to their program director or the program director contacting me, but we have the solicitation 3 times a year. And pretty much we fund those grants that are most in line with our strategic plan. And I'll get into that in a second. So what are our funding priorities? Well, they're actually not limited to any specific health condition, organ system, or population group. We actually fund all types of research, including preclinical, clinical, behavioral, and epidemiologic, but the emphasis has to be on dietary supplements or their ingredients. And we will not entertain grants that have treatment as a focus. In that case, you're really looking at a drug rather than a dietary supplement. So our grants are prioritized on their relevance to the ODS mission and strategic plan. And these include things like studies that investigate the safety, efficacy, and effectiveness of dietary supplements, those that evaluate their use in different populations. They explore the mechanisms on health and risk reduction, those that validate biomarkers or surrogate and clinical endpoints, those that develop and validate reliable and accurate analytical techniques for identifying ingredients, and those that develop new technologies for botanical identification and for study of complex herbal dietary supplements. And also, we're really looking to expand the cadre of research scientists. And one of the things that our office is actively involved in right now is undergoing a new strategic planning process and determining whether these should also be our priorities for our next round. A couple of specific considerations in our co-funding is that supplements must be administered in physiologically relevant forms and concentrations, and they must be administered orally. For clinical studies, investigators are encouraged to contact FDA to determine if an IND is needed, an investigational new drug. And one of the big things that we've started in the last couple of years is really looking at product integrity. Do people know what they're studying, and can it be reproduced so that you can have much more valid studies? And we require all co-funded studies to conform to the NCCIH, or the institute formerly known as NCAM Product Integrity Guidelines. So this slide shows our extramural grant funding. At the peak in 2005, we funded 103 awards for about $17.4 million. And in 2013, we funded 96 awards for about $13.7 million. And in general, our ODS co-funding tends to be about 50 to 60% of the ODS budget. We fund with, in 2013, we funded with 14 different institutes at NIH, as shown here. And the majority of those were with NCAM, or the institute that's now known as NCCIH. This pie chart shows graphically, in terms of dollar amount, our co-funding. And as I said, the majority is with NCCIH, and that's because of the botanical research centers, which are congressionally mandated specifically to look at botanical dietary supplements. But we also fund with a number of different ICs. This slide shows the breakdown by the type of dietary supplements. About a third of our funding goes to the botanical research centers, with an additional 13% on botanicals. And we're actually looking to decrease our expenditures in the futures on botanicals and try and normalize it more among all the different types of dietary supplements. We also have a significant expenditure on vitamin D, and part of this was because of the whole push to really look at all the different health effects of vitamin D. A big vitamin D initiative that was out of ODS, and actually the co-funding of a number of large NIH-funded studies such as VITAL and D2D. One of the big things that I initiated last year was a new way of doing business. And pretty much in the past, we'd always been limited to what program directors put forward for us to consider for co-funding. And last year we kind of changed the way we did business by being able to initiate an administrative supplement for research on dietary supplements. And this was designed to support research in which the primary emphasis on dietary supplements and or their ingredients and health maintenance and disease prevention. But it really allowed investigators that had NIH-funded grants to say, wait a minute, I could add something else that would really add value to the grant if it was within scope and support more research in this area. And as I said, this year was the first year that we had this opportunity, and we actually funded applications from 10 different NIH institutes. So it really increased the diversity a bit of our portfolio. One of the other things that ODS is really involved in is in methods development. And in fact, the U.S. Senate had language beginning in 2001 that called for ODS to enhance collaborative efforts to develop and disseminate validated analytical methods and reference materials for the most commonly used botanicals and other dietary supplements. And we did this by creating the Analytical Methods and Reference Materials Program in 2002. And this program has a number of very important roles, but its main functions are to develop, validate, and share analytic methods, to produce and share reference materials, and it does this mainly through collaboration with NIST. And this has applications for research, for the characterization of test substances, with industry for implementation of GMPs and product formulation, and for regulators in terms of label claims and safety. So that was a very, very quick overview on what I do at the Office of Dietary Supplements. I kind of made it very quick because we have a very broad group here, and I know that this would be of more interest to the academicians, perhaps than some of the industry people in the audience. But if anybody has any specific questions or there are ways that I can help you, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.